good morning.
Good morning, DA. Good to be with you. And let me just say that I've got my feet up. I played my first round of golf. I'm done with my Fox assignments, and I put Raycom to bed. I actually outlasted a gig. That rarely happens in our business.
Yep.
And I look back fondly on my 18 years of covering the tournament for CBS, and now I'm going to watch the 8 lucky men that get to sit in that chair that I was so privileged to sit in and work their butts off today, and I will love watching them do that all day long and all night long.
You are living your best life, Tim Brando.
There
Glad
you
to have
go.
you here on the show. Love it. And I saw that you tweeted out your bracket, and one of the big upsets you had was New Mexico State over Auburn. Auburn just won the SEC tournament. You're taking New Mexico State at a 5-12 upset. Tell me why.
I think they play a similar style to Auburn, and they love to get up and down the floor too. And a lot of times you expend a lot of energy in winning a major conference championship like that. Auburn, I think, was a second-round punch-out a year ago. They live and die with the three, as you know. Bruce has done a remarkable job with a team that has virtually no inside game whatsoever. Now, you can make a case that the matchup is good for Auburn because the style that New Mexico plays is similar. But here's the difference. New Mexico, they've won a ton of games too. They believe, hey, we're on scholarship too. This is as huge a moment for them as there can be. Plus, they've got a lot of tournament experience. I think 7 of the last 8 years they've been in, and a lot of the years that I was doing the tournament, seemingly I saw New Mexico State every stinking season, or just about. So this is a legacy program in a lot of ways that never gets any national love. Knocking off an SEC tournament champion would mean everything to them. And, Auburn just slayed Tennessee by 20. And I think in the here and now of modern-day Internet athletes, it's tough for a guy like Pearl to get this team to refocus. So I just think it's a focus game for them. And the other big one that I have, you may have noticed, is I've got Yale beating LSU in the 14-3 game. I think what's going on off the floor is a problem for the Tigers. They are in the midst of all kinds of issues there. And Yale has a couple of players that probably could have been. In fact, were offered a chance to play at the P5 level, but they wanted to go to Yale, and who wouldn't? I think that's a matchup where style is contrast, and I think will play into the hands of Yale in an upset of LSU, and that's an early game today.
Tim Brando joins us to break down the brackets. In your regionals, you've got the 1 versus the 2s everywhere except the West, where you have a 3 and a 4 in Texas Tech and Florida State. What makes you feel like Gonzaga and Michigan, the 1-2 there, are vulnerable in the West?
Michigan has been without Matthews for a good part of the year. He's back, but I don't know how completely healthy he is. Michigan, as you know, is a tough team to go against because Beeline has had such great tournament success. He did get a better draw than Tom Izzo. It actually worked out better for the team that lost the Big Ten title than it did for the team that won the Big Ten title. Texas Tech is a matchup nightmare, and it just defensively, Chris Beard's team, I don't know of anyone that defends any harder for 40 minutes. And I just think ultimately that matchup that ultimately could get them, if I'm wrong about Texas Tech, Nevada is the team that's going to give Michigan a lot of trouble. Tournament experience, the Martin twins return. In fact, everyone returns for Eric Musselman. And Florida State's got great length, the kind of length that can deal with Gonzaga. And the problem for Florida State, really, the only issue they had was not shooting the ball well enough to beat a Duke team that was 2 of 14 from beyond the arc in the championship game. Cabangeli is a tough talent. I mean, he comes off the bench, but he is a tough talent. They just need their guards to shoot the ball a little bit better. Not a lot, just a little, because Florida State is a suffocating defensive team too, and they'll go 10-11 deep. So they never have to worry about fatigue being a factor. And, ultimately over the 3 weeks, DA, fatigue becomes an issue. And teams that at times struggle to score will hit the wall, and you start seeing those jump shots that were falling in rounds 1 and 2 clanking off with an iron unkind in rounds 3 and 4. That's why I like Carolina to win the whole thing and beat Duke if they play a fourth time. I think Duke's path in their region is tougher than North Carolina's. So if those two meet in a historic matchup in the championship game, which I foresee, I like North Carolina because, look, they know they let one get away in that title game. They had a 14-point lead and let it slip, and I think they're tired of being overlooked because of Mount Zion.
So a lot of people very polarized on Tennessee. Some people think they're pretenders. You have them all the way into the Final Four, knocking off Virginia. What do you like about the Vols?
The reason I like them over Virginia is the athleticism in the paint. Grant Williams is just a load, and Schofield is a guy. Admiral Schofield is a guy that can beat you off the dribble with his size and strength. Now, look, DeAndre Hunter's a tremendous talent and is a lottery pick. I'm tired of hearing people say Virginia, has to slow it down and they don't have a lot of. Look, Jerome and Guy are both pros, and they've got one lottery pick. Kihei Clark has made a difference as a point guard, too, from the standpoint of getting some steals and some easy baskets this year for Virginia. And you can make a case that were it not for Zion Williamson, they'd be the best team in the country and would be the most complete team in America. But I think the matchup with Tennessee can be problematic if the Tennessee guards are making shots. And they had to make them in that Kentucky game. Look, they were gassed when they played Auburn. That game was an aberration. If you want to throw dirt on them for the back half of the season a little bit after they were number one in the country, okay, I'll listen. But in the championship game of the SEC, losing by 20 because they didn't make shots and because they were a little gassed having to come from behind the day before to beat the Big Blue, that to me is what that was all about. I love the draw for Tennessee. If you're going to draw a number one team, the team you want to draw if you're Tennessee is Virginia.
I think that's
because
true.
You have the wherewithal to shoot with them and defend them. Salt and Huff, two different types of bigs for Virginia, are guys you really don't have to worry about as much. And I think the quickness of the front court of Tennessee will get those kids in foul trouble, and ultimately Tennessee will advance.
Tim Brando joined us this morning here on the show. I was excited when I heard that we're going to have you on the show because you're a real historian of college basketball. You've been around this game for so long, called so many great games with so many great players. I wanted your historical context on Zion Williamson. Was there somebody that he reminded you of that you had called games of or observed as a freshman that was as dominant and as next level as Zion has been this year?
He's a generational player, D.A., one that you only see once every quarter century. The last guy that you could not take your eyes off of because he was that big, he was that strong, and he could run the floor in ways that we hadn't seen at that position in the past was Shaquille O'Neal. But Shaquille played a different position, and he certainly couldn't do with the ball what Zion can do, either in the half court or the full court. Okay? One was the post-up center. The other is playing as though he's a guard that's 6'8", 275 or 280, whatever he is. Zion's best offensive move is his first step and his ability to put the ball on the rim. And if he happens to miss the shot, he goes to get it because of that quick burst, faster than the defense can collapse. And that is even if he's double-teamed. Look back at the North Carolina play to win it. 4 guys were collapsing on him. He still beat them all to get his own offensive rebound and putback to win the basketball game. Without him, Duke is, in my mind, probably a Sweet 16 at best team. Trey Jones can get steals, D.A., but no one can run the floor and get out on the wings to get those easy baskets in transition quite like Zion. They don't have anyone. R.J. Barrett can't. Cam Reddish can't. In fact, those two guys have been, in my mind, a little disappointing. And it's, again, one of the reasons why I think I like North Carolina to meet them. I still have Duke getting through because of Zion primarily. But listen, I can only think of maybe a combination, if you're talking about just style of player. Charles Barkley morphs into Dominique Wilkins simultaneously. How about that? We take Dominique on one side, Charles on the other. We get a mixologist, and we put them together and form a DNA called this kid, Zion Williamson, because he's a combination of both, the human highlight film and the round mound of rebound.
I love that comp. And do you think because Zion is so dynamic from dunking and has so many spectacular splash highlight reels, plays, people don't recognize how well he is all around?
Yeah, no, his basketball IQ is incredible. He has an understanding of spacing, knows how to position himself so that he can find the direct avenues, that little crease, if you will, within a defense, whether it's a man-to-man or zone. He made a play right in front of Mike Jaminski and myself in that championship game to cause a turnover that I don't think any other player in America could have made. And it was basically just diving across the floor with that quick spurt of his, forcing a deflection that led Trey Jones to an open break, and basically helped put them in a position where Florida State was not going to be able to make a run great enough to beat them. But as super as he is, and as good as the talent is around him, there's not one of these teams that are on the one line are dominant teams. They aren't. Now, they have dominant names. They have blue blood names, but we could all be wrong. I mean, Michigan State might come out and just play the most incredible game ever, and I can make a case that Cassius Winston in the Elite Eight would outplay Trey Jones well enough for them to win the game. Okay, so it can happen. The one thing that always happens with the NCAA tournament, and why I still love it so much, is that we would like to think that we know a lot about the college game, but there are 353 Division I-A teams, and 64 of them start playing today. And, DA, what we all find out, even those of us that follow the sport a lot, what we find out is how much we really don't know when today begins. Yeah. How much we don't know. We thought we knew, but then we find out what we don't know.
It's a great way to put it. It's so true. Tim Brando's been doing it at an elite level for a really long time. You should follow him on Twitter for the tournament, @TimBrando, and check out his bracket there as well. He's tweeted out his bracket, @TimBrando. I'm glad that we got to catch up with you today, my man. Thanks so much for doing it. Enjoy the tourney.
You got it, DA. And as I said on Twitter, many thanks and congratulations, and I'm wishing the best for all the broadcasters at Turner and CBS. It's a great place to be, and only 8 guys get to work right now, and I know how happy they are, and it's an incredible challenge that faces them.
Well said. No doubt. Thanks, Tim.